Here we just have some leftover burlap fabric. Here what we have is one of our 12-inch grapevine cones. And what we're going to do is we're going to place it in the corner and wrap it really tightly. So here we have the back side of the cone that we just wrapped. And I'm going to take a little bit of florist wire. You can also be using beige pipe cleaners. And what we're going to do is just feed that through and temporarily secure it like that. For the bottom half, what we can do is we can fold it over so it looks like a brim. So like we did up top, we're going to secure a piece of wire. Then what we can do is make sure you have a long enough piece of wire. You want it long enough where you can twist it really nice and secure, and then take that wire and poke it right back into whatever you're designing. So now that piece is really secure, so we don't have to come back in with hot glue there, but we are going to come back in with a little over here. So I'm just going to take a little bit of hot glue, and I'm using my glue skillet. I'll place a piece of hot glue there, and then we'll just hold that for a minute or two. So these are oak leaves. Feel free to use maple leaves as well. We're going to snip about 2 or 3 inches off of each stem. So here we have our cone again. We're going to just dip our stems in our glue skillet. So we're going to just take it, work it in with a generous amount of hot glue, and make sure you feel that contact with the cone. That's what's going to keep these in place, you guys. You want to make sure that you can feel it pull on the grapevine so it stabilizes it. So we're just going to come back in with another piece. So that's with 3. Feel free to use however many you want. I do have a little bit of leftover greenery, and we're going to use this to enhance the top of our hat. So I'll just dip these in my glue skillet, come back with another little piece just as an accent like that, and I think that just added a perfect little touch above the hat. So here I have some ribbon, and I'm just going to cut it into a little piece and create a little patch. So we'll just take a little bit of hot glue using a scrap stem, and we'll just put a little patch on him. So we'll just take this little patch and come back in the opposite direction. We'll do it like that, and I think that looks really cute. So now it's time to come back in with the nose. And the nose, we're going to use one of our ornaments. You can also take a styrofoam ball and paint it. So as you can see, the glue doesn't look the best, but it still works nonetheless. So I'll just poke his nose slightly underneath the hat like that. And look at how cute this is. So to create a hanger, we're going to just flip the decoration over. We're going to take a pipe cleaner, and since our fabric is secured, we're just going to feed this through. And I actually just went through the grapevine there, which is going to make it even more sturdy. Snip off the excess, and there you have a hanger. So let's hang this up and show you the finished reveal. And here is how the gnome turned out. I think he turned out so adorable, and this was very inexpensive to create.
What I'm going to do is I took a scrap of styrofoam and fit it down in here, and I wedged it really tight. And now I am going to set this right on top. Now I cut some little wedges of styrofoam, and I'm just going to tuck them right in here. You're going to want to head over to the Dollar Tree and pick up one of these garlands. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take this and go around my cone here, pin the garland to the cone. So I'm just going to start. I've got some pretty fall silk flowers, and I am just going to go ahead and poke this right into my foam tree. Now, if you don't have one of these fancy pick machines, one of the alternatives is wood wired sticks, okay? They look like this, and you buy them in a bunch. What you do is you put the wood wired stick up next to your stem, and you take this wire and you wrap the wire around the stem really tightly and around the green stick. At the end, you must wrap it just around the stick at least a couple of times, and then that won't come off. See, I can stick this right in. Here is a leaf that has just a stem that's not firm enough to stick into our styrofoam. We only need a little bit of this skewer, and we're going to put that stick right up next to the leaf, and then we're going to take the floral tape and wrap it around the leaf and around the skewer, and now you will be able to add that really easily. I'm just going to go ahead and keep building this up. I will use a combination of my steel pick machine and the skewers. I'm so happy with how this turned out, and you can see it coordinates with my other items on my mantle just beautifully.
So here's the leaves we're going to be using. So what we're actually going to do is just pop off these leaves. All I'm doing is just simply pulling them right off the stems I recommend between 3 and 5 colors of different fall leaves. But all I'm going to do is I'm going to dip them in our glue skillet and begin working them in. So when designing this wreath, one thing I would like you to focus on is to make sure that you're placing them all in the same direction. Now let's go to our reds, or kind of a burnt red. So we'll just easily transition from one leaf to a next, and then we'll move on to our next color. And I think we're gonna do this darker red next. And instead of using the steel pick machine, what you can always do is just use nothing, just your hot glue. That'll keep them in place as well. Now we'll transition to our pretty green. Isn't that a pretty green? And continue working these in. And we have 2 colors left after this. And lastly, this pretty yellowish red. What we're gonna do now is kind of give it a quick little fluff, adjust. If we have any gaps or any places that could use an extra leaf or two, where the grapevine might be showing through, we're gonna take these extra leaves and place them underneath. So let's quickly show you guys how to create a beautiful bow. So what we're gonna start off doing is we're gonna create a few of these loops. All I'm doing is I'm creating loops and tails. And I'm just gonna snip it. Feel free to cut however long or however short you want your bow to be. Again, snip the end. You can do as many loops and tails as you would like. Keep in mind, the more loops and tails you have, the more full your bow is going to be. Take our pipe cleaner, feed it through behind our hand, and twist it. Take your ribbons, fold them in half, and cut from the middle out towards the wired edge at an angle. And that creates a beautiful dovetail, which is really professional looking. So we'll do that to all of our tails. So now we have our bow constructed, and I'm going to show you guys what it looks like with the bow as well as without. So you have the option of doing whatever you would like. So I'm just taking the pipe cleaner, feeding it through the grapevine, secure from behind, and then what we can do is begin fluffing our loops. Absolutely love the ombre effect. So a very simple idea that I think would carry you from September all the way through Thanksgiving.
So I have my tomato cage here. So I'm going to take a piece of pipe cleaner here, and I'm going to take the 3 ends of my tomato cage and bringing them together, I'm going to attach them and hold them together using the pipe cleaner. So we're just going to wrap that around there. And now we have our ends tied together. So my garland actually has a wire inside the garland, so it's bendable and it keeps its shape. So I'm just going to start at one of the vertical pieces of the tomato cage, and I'm just going to wrap my garland around there. So I'm just tying it on really tight around this vertical piece here, okay? And then I'm going to begin intertwining the garland through the vertical pieces of the tomato cage. I'm just going to use a small piece of wire here, and I'm going to attach the garland to the tomato cage so that it stays in place.
So I'm going to continue to wrap my garland leaves around my tomato cage until I've used all of them.
Now that we have all 5 garlands on, now I also have some leaf picks here, and what we can do with these is anywhere where there are large gaps or big holes where the garland is just missing, slide up in and fill in those gaps. So all we have to do is slide the stick in and then just take a little piece of wire and wire the stick up to the top of the tomato cage. I'm going to continue working my way around here, pulling in these extra leaves. I'm just going to take the body of my gnome and I'm just going to set it off to the side, and now we're going to make a hat. So what I need to do here is I need to cut a 20-inch by 20-inch square. So we're going to take the one corner of our fabric and we're going to fold it up. Now we are going to take our hot glue and we are only going to glue down one side of the fabric. Then we're going to take our piece of fabric and we're going to fold it back over. Make sure we push down really well. So I'm just going to take my fabric scissors and starting about here, and I'm going to do a nice semicircle cut. Now that our glue is all set, we're going to turn our hat inside right. And then to get that nice tip point, I'm going to use just the end of a pencil here, and I'm going to stick it up and push all that fabric out. And then to pretty my hat up a bit, because I couldn't find a nice fall pattern fabric that I like, I just picked up this felt garland here, and I am just going to put that around my hat. I'm just going to use some hot glue here. Then when I've worked my way to the back of the hat, I can just cut off the remaining garland.
To make the nose for my gnome, I'm going to be using a pair of nylons, and I'm just going to cut it right at the top of the leg. And then I'm going to take some cotton fuzz and I'm going to stuff it into my nylon. And then I'm going to take these two outside pieces here, the long pieces of the nylon, and I'm going to wrap them around the back of the fuzz, and then I'm just going to tie them in a very tight knot. Then I'm going to cut off this excess here, and then we have our adorable plump little gnome nose. Placing the hat is super easy. You just have to slide it over the top of the tomato cage. So we're just going to place it on here and then kind of fix it up so that it looks nice. And then we are going to apply our nose. So I just use a piece of floral wire and I stick it through the back side of the nose. And then I slide that wire into the tomato cage and wrap it around one of the horizontal pieces of the tomato cage. And then I just tuck the wire in and behind. I have this nice stem here that I got, and I'm just going to add this for a little bit of embellishment. I'm just going to hot glue it and tuck it just inside the garland around the hat. And I seriously, you guys, I think the fall gnome might be my favorite. I love the pop of color with the leaves. It adds such a nice fall touch to my porch.